joining us, but I think it'll be good to just start now. So welcome to everyone. This is the National Theater Project Creation and Touring Grant Info Session. Thank you for joining us. Can you all hear me? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, good. So first off, let me just introduce the NTP team. So that's the National Theater Project team. On the call today is myself, Mina Malik. I'm the program manager for theater at the New England Foundation for the Arts. And we also have Derek. You want to mention your name?
Hi, I'm Derek Schwartz. I use he and his pronouns, and I'm the program associate for theater at NEFA.
Thank you. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And another person, key member in our team that is not on the call today is Keita Sullivan, who's the director, program director of theater here at NEFA. So a couple of housekeeping things before we move on. We will be taking some questions at the end of the webinar, but if you have some burning questions that you don't want to forget, there's also a chat box option. If you just kind of hover on your screen on the bottom, there is a little icon that says chat. So if you click on that, you can send a question to us, and we'll be monitoring it throughout the webinar. So I may, or Derek may respond to that as we go if it seems relevant. If not, we may leave it to the very end and respond to all of them. So we'll see how that goes. Just so you all know, we are recording this webinar so that we can send you the link afterwards. So you can re-watch it. You can also send it to your ensemble members, your colleagues. Keep that in mind. Also, because we're recording it, we are muting everyone so that you can hear our voices better and get all the information that you need. At the end, when we take questions, you can unmute yourselves and we can actually have conversation. But for the main part of the webinar, it'll be great if you could keep yourself muted. We may do that on our end as well. So let's move to the next slide. So today we will be covering who is NEFA, overview of the National Theater Project, what does the Creation Touring Grant support, NEFA's Equity, Diversity, Inclusion, and Accessibility Statement, our criteria, what is a development partner, timeline, NTP Advisors, application process and FAQ, narrative question overview, video samples, and then we'll move into questions. Next slide.
So for those of you who aren't familiar with NEFA, NEFA is a regional arts organization and a service organization that also acts as a funder. And even though we are called New England Foundation for the Arts, the National Theater Project is a national program. The National Dance Project is also a national program. So even though we're based in New England, there is nothing specific to New England about this program in particular. NEFA's mission statement is what you're reading here. So NEFA invests in artists and communities and fosters equitable access to the arts, enriching the cultural landscape in New England and the nation. NEFA accomplishes this by granting funds to artists and cultural organizations, connecting them to each other and their audiences, and analyzing their economic contributions. NEFA serves as a regional partner for the National Endowment for the Arts, New England state arts agencies, and private foundations.
So today we are here to talk about the National Theater Project, which is a national program. NTP promotes the development of artist-led ensemble and devised theater work, and also extends the reach and life of these projects through touring. And our lead funding comes from the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation, and now we receive additional support from the Doris Duke Charitable Foundation. And this additional funding really means a lot to us, because it has allowed us to extend our reach. So we used to support 6 grants, we moved up to 8 grants, and this year we are able to support 10 grants. So we're really excited about that. Next slide. when you're filling out the application, you will see that we have some definitions of what devised and ensemble means to us. And this was a co-created definition by our advisors, our 12 advisors and panelists. So you can find this on the website as well, but let me read it to you. So devised is a process of co-creation and joint discovery that prioritizes generative artists, which may include but does not prioritize playwrights, is iterative, and results in original work. And ensemble is a group of 2 or more people committed to working together over time to develop a distinct practice and body of work. Next slide, please. So NTP was created in 2010 to explore if the National Dance Model could support devised and ensemble theater. So National Dance Project is our sibling program at NEFA, and it's been going on for much longer than us. So we kind of learn from each other. Projects vary greatly in timeline, scale, touring interests. Oh, and also you should know that we are coming up to on our 10-year anniversary this year, which is really exciting for us. Let's see, grants for creation and touring, the range is between $80,000 to $130,000, which is split between creation grants and presentation grants, giving to presenters to support artist fees as designated by the artist. And this is really important to note that the presentation grant funds are controlled by artists. Artists allocate the money. So this is intended to counteract the power imbalance that sometimes exists between artists and presenters. We also have the finalist development grant for a handful of finalists who do not receive full creation and touring grant. And these are smaller grants that the advisors may identify little supports that these projects can receive to really enhance their project. Whether they apply for a grant again or not doesn't really matter. So in the past, we've supported work in progress showings for projects to improve their work samples. We have also supported them to purchase set pieces like a truck. So that's how we use that support. Cohort meeting between grantees and advisors is part of our support at NTP. And we have heard that aside from the money, which is always great to receive, the cohort meetings have been extremely valuable for the artists because this is 2 full days for them to just discuss about their projects and their specific needs that they have, and also cultivate authentic relationships with our 12 advisors. We also have travel grants for presenters to see supported work. So these are for presenters to apply to see the projects that we are supporting in order to decide whether they would like to present the work. In particular, the types of works that we support are not super typical, or it could be really out of the box, and it's really hard to figure out whether that will fit into the presenter's space or their usual projects that they present. So it really helps for them to actually see the project. So this is how we support presenters to come see your work. We cover 70% of the travel costs. And we have also used this fund to support artists to go for a site visit to a space that they're planning to present at, as well as bringing culturally competent critics to their performances. Next slide, please.
So the grant that we're all here to talk about today is the Creation and Touring Grant. So to give a broad overview of the grant, and we'll go into all of this information later, but as Mina said, we're really excited to be presenting 10 Creation and Touring Grants this year, which is up from 8 last year. These grants are made to US-based theater ensembles and individual theater artists with identified collaborators. And the definition of what is ensemble really comes back to that language that we use at the beginning, and there are solo performers who are able to apply for this grant through their collaborations and to make a case that it is ensemble work. All projects must have one committed development partner relationship, and we're going to talk about what development partners are later. The grants range from $80,000 to $130,000, which are split into creation funds and touring funds. And the projects must allocate the touring funds among tour sites within 2 years of receiving the grant. And we put in that deadline. We also understand that things happen, and we work with people when they can't hit that deadline because it is an unpredictable world. So, like I said, the funding is divided into 2 sections. There's the creation funds and the touring funds. We work with the artists to figure out how to split that money up. It's typically around 30 to 80,000 for creation, and the rest will go towards touring. That first portion, the creation portion, is distributed directly to the artist to support the creation and development of the work. And that money is we don't have a lot of limitations on how you can use that money. So it's really up to you to use that money to develop the work as you see fit. The remaining grant amount is set aside as artist-directed allocations distributed to presenters. These funds can support up to 50% of the artist fee for any given engagement. The tour funds are paid directly to presenters through the NTP presentation grant. And the way you spread this money out is really up to you. So some people will spread that money across just a few presenters and give them that full 50% of the artist fee. Some people will do a lot of small grants. So they will spread that money across their whole tour and give $1,000 here, $1,000 there. And we work with you to help develop that strategy, but it really is completely up to you. We also recognize that allocating that money creates a lot of work. So we do require that each project must have a designated tour coordinator who's in charge of negotiating directly with presenters. That being said, because we recognize that not every company has the infrastructure to have a tour coordinator like that, we do allocate $10,000 to go towards tour administration.
In order to be eligible for this grant, the applicant must be US-based theater ensemble or individual artists with identified collaborators, have a nonprofit status or a nonprofit fiscal sponsor, have one committed development partner relationship, allocate the funds among tour sites within 2 years of receiving the grant, fulfill the requirements and reports if awarded. And for returning artists, all NTP supported presentations are completed, and it has been 1 year since the last NTP supported presentation. And there's a real equity reason around that. When you only give 10 grants, you have to maintain grants for new artists and cannot always support the same artists. But we also know that artists grow and companies and ensembles grow, and we have to be able to support those as well. So we think this is a pretty easy requirement compared to some other funders that require 5 years, which we didn't want to do. Next slide, please. So the flip side to that, the types of projects that we did not consider. So we aren't able to support everything, and we do have some limitations on the type of projects we can award grants to. So projects focused solely on children's and family theater, we do not support. However, that doesn't mean that whatever the project is doesn't have that component within it, but it isn't the sole focus of the project. So we have supported projects that have a school show component to it or a residency component to it, which is fine, but it's not the sole focus of the project. We also don't support projects by solo performers. That being said, we have had many projects that have a single performer on stage, but that is not the entirety of the ensemble. We understand that the ensemble process is part of the creation work as well. So it may look like a solo performer on stage, but then the creation process was entirely ensemble. We also don't support projects developed by lead artists who are non-US based. And you can have artists who are non-US based as part of your ensemble, but the lead artist does need to be US based. Next, we are going to talk about the considerations and criteria that advisors are asked to look at in choosing projects for the grant.
Yeah, so as we move into talking about the grant criteria and how the grantees are selected, we want to first mention NEFA's EDIA value statement, that's equity, diversity, inclusivity, accessibility. And this was created as part of NEFA's strategic plan. This statement is really central to how our grant, it's really central to our grant making process, and we ask our panelists to keep it in front and center as they're considering the applications, and so we want to read it to you so that you can also keep this in mind. So it reads, NEFA values an equitable, diverse, and inclusive world, which we interpret as all people having fair access to the tools and resources they need to realize creative and community endeavors. We acknowledge structural inequities that have excluded individuals and communities from opportunity based on race, gender, disability, sexual orientation, class, age, geography, culture, nation of origin, and language, and strive to counter those inequities in our work. So now as we move into the criteria, I'm going to read these word for word because this is what you will see when you go to fill out an application, and the questions that are asked in the application derive directly from these. This is also what our panelists will be looking at when they assess your application. And we really do recommend that you are looking at this as you fill it out, and all of the criteria is available on our website, and you will also see it when you start the grant application. So the NTP Creation and Touring Grants support the creation and development of U.S. touring of new artist-led devised ensemble theater works that demonstrate excellence in the artist practice. Support work that contributes to the cultural and aesthetic diversity of today's theater. Reflect meaningful partnerships with presenters, producers, and other organizations that are involved in the development, promotion, and/or touring of the work, of the new work. Offer the potential to deepen engagement because of the work's relevance, originality, and/or timeliness, and produce a viable plan for touring the supported work in multiple communities in the U.S. and its territories, which we define as the 50 United States, as well as Puerto Rico, Guam, Northern Mariana Islands, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and American Samoa.
So, what is a development partner? Development partners provide a variety of resources during the development of a work, including but not limited to providing residency space, finding audience for work in progress showings, administrative guidance or support, marketplace advocacy, tour planning assistance, leveraging of additional funds for the project, and more. A development partner is fundamental to making this work happen. We have found over the 9 years of grant making that we have been doing this, that the better the relationship is with the development partner, the more likely it is that the work is going to come together in a way that feels successful for the artists. Next slide, please. Development partner does not necessarily mean a presenter. It could mean an incubator space, a service organization working with a community you're hoping to reach, or any number of other organizations, and really emphasizing that it does not need to be a theater organization. The development partner is not required to present the finished work at any time, though many do. And it is understood that the need and level of assistance and relationship between development partners and artists varies from artist to artist. But NTP believes strongly that partnerships greatly benefit the development and distribution of devised ensemble theater. Next slide, please.
So looking at the timeline for this grant, so the creation and touring grant selection process is divided into 2 rounds. There's the preliminary or inquiry round, which is what we are working on right now. And then there is a full proposal or a final application round. The preliminary round begins in January when the grant inquiry application becomes available on the NEFA website. The inquiry application deadline is March 9th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. And once we have processed all the inquiries, we send out a panel book with all of the applications to the NTP Advisors. Last year, we received a little bit over 100 applications. We expect that we'll probably receive a similar amount this year. So reading through those takes the advisors some time. So they will meet in mid-May to select the finalists, who will then be notified. From there, the final application will open in mid-May, and the final applications are due June 15th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. NEPA will announce the creation and touring grant recipients in late July or early August, and then we will publish that and publish a grantee booklet, which we'll distribute to our constituents in September of 2020.
Who are these people making these decisions is something you may wonder about. So let's talk a little bit about the NTP Advisors. So these are people who provide critical guidance to the applicants in the proposal preparation and tour development. As Derek mentioned, you'll be assigned an advisor to work with for the final application, and this is a great opportunity for you to utilize their time and resources that they're offering to really build a new relationship with them, have them see your work and understand your work, so that they can make strong arguments for you during the panel meeting. NTP Advisors also guide project selection and serve as consultants and ambassadors for the program. We really rely on NTP Advisors when we're doing policy discussions, editing our criteria, when we're looking at the questions that we ask all of you in the application. There are incredible resources to us. And they also serve as ambassadors for the program by telling artists that they know about our grant program, and distributing information about our grants. The NTP Advisors represent presenters, producing theaters, festivals, service organizations, and theater artists. And recently we have also started adding returning artists, now that we're in our 10th year, who have gone through this process before, which is really great, because they have some perspectives that the other advisors don't have, who actually have gone through this process. And then selection of advisors take into account geography, gender, cultural, and racial equity, and includes new and established leaders in the field. And the list of our current advisors can be viewed on our website. Next slide, please.
So now we're going to move into the nitty-gritty technical stuff of applying for this grant. So the grant application is on NEPA's website. And to those of you who have applied to NEPA grants before, you'll notice that this year we have a new portal, which we think will make the process a little bit easier, but if you're used to the old one, it is a little bit different. So you'll get to the portal by going to www.nepa.org. From there, to start your application, you'll navigate to the National Theater Project Creation and Touring Grant page. So to get there, you'll go to the grants header that's highlighted above, click on Find a Grant, and then you'll just scroll to National Theater Project. That'll take you to a page that looks like the one you're looking at now. So from there, obviously you'll hit Apply Now to start your application. If you aren't ready to start your application, but you want to take a look at what the questions are so you can start preparing, you can hit Preview Application Questions. And then once you've started, you can either navigate to this page to return to your grant application, or you can do it straight from the NEPA homepage just by highlighting grants as you see there, and there's this Return to Your Grant Application button straight on the NEPA website. When you click the Apply Now button, it will take you to the online portal page, which looks like, if I can switch the slide. Sorry, I think my computer is freezing. There we go. So this is what the website will look like to log into the portal. Even if you've applied to NEPA grants before, unless you've done it on this new portal, so if you've applied maybe in the last 6 months, you might have an account, but your old NEPA account would not have transferred over. So unless you've applied to a NEPA grant really recently, you're going to have to make a new account. So you'll just click New User, answer all of your questions, set up your account. If you have any issues with that, you can either get in touch with the National Theater Project staff and we'll give you all of our contact information. You can also email tech@nepa.org, which will put you into the extremely capable hands of our technology director, Abby, who is amazing. So once you set up an account, oh, sorry, one more note on your account, you'll notice that your username cannot be the email address, which can throw people, so just keep track of your username. If you forget it, you can always do this can't access your account, and we'll sort it out, but just keep that in mind because I know I forget a lot of times when I can't use my email address. So once you're in, this is what the application itself will look like. As you're going through, we recommend you save as much as possible. I would save after every question because things happen, websites crash, whatever it is, and you don't want to lose that information. When you're filling out the narrative questions, I would recommend actually doing it in a Microsoft Word document or some kind of word processor, something where you know it's safe and stable, and then just pasting that into the application itself at the very end. Just when you're doing that, keep in mind that special formatting like bold, italics, underline, things like that will not transfer into the application. So just be mindful of that. As you're going through, you'll have to save throughout in order to get to the next page. You can see there's these 6 or 7 tabs at the top. And as you go through, you'll hit save and it'll move you to the next tab. And we'll also let you know if there are any required fields that you're missing. At the very end, you'll hit this review/print button in the upper right corner, and then you'll have to actually hit submit again. So just again, keep in mind that review/print does not submit it. That just takes you to the page where you will hit submit. And then finally, one other slightly confusing thing that you might run into, and I just want to clear this up. When you go to return to your grant application, it will take you to a page that looks like this one at the top here. And you'll see that there's these 3 tabs on the left: request, inquiry, and report. Those are for 3 different types of applications or reports that you might do in NEFA's portal. This preliminary application is actually an inquiry. So when you go to this account, it won't immediately, or when you go to this page, sorry, from the return to my grant application button, it won't immediately show your creation and touring application. You'll have to click inquiry, then it'll take you to this page that you see at the bottom of the screen, and there will be a little button. You don't see it here because I'm actually not sure why, but there will be a little button underneath where it says edit, and you can just click that and go into your application. And if you have any issues with any of this, again, just let us know. We are very accessible.
The narrative questions that we'll be asking for this particular round are as follows. So number 1, please describe the proposed new work. Number 2, describe your devising development process and how this project meets the definitions of devised and ensemble theater. Number 3, which is a new question that we added last year, we acknowledge that the people reviewing your application are likely to have gaps in understanding or knowledge about the context for your work. Please provide your own definitions of excellence and success for this project and any other information you think will be important for the advisors to have to fairly assess your application. Next page, please. Number 4, how does this project contribute to the cultural and aesthetic diversities of today's theater? Number 5, list key benchmarks in development and estimated schedule of completion. Number 6, briefly describe your relationship with the development partners named on the application and how they will contribute to the development and/or touring and promotion of this work. And number 7, describe the audiences and communities you want to reach and how you envision connecting with them through this work. And you can access these questions without actually opening your application form. It's on our website. There's a link, I think, that says preview your narrative questions. So if you click on that, you can see all of these questions along with the characters. So you can, copy and paste it on a Word document and work on your narrative that way, and then later copy it back into the application form. Yes, next slide, please.
So we started including video sample requirements with our application because originally we didn't have it, and our advisors were going through and finding videos on the internet, and we decided that if they're going to be looking at the videos, you should be able to choose which videos they're seeing as opposed to just some blurry YouTube videos that someone put up from a performance. So we now do require that you submit 1 or 2 video samples. There is a 3-minute total maximum of video footage that you can include. So if you have one video that's 2 minutes, the other one can only be 1 minute, et cetera. If the video goes over those 3 minutes, that's fine. You just need to include queue times for us so that we can tell the advisors or panelists where to look. The work sample does not necessarily need to show the work that you're applying with, but it should show a recent work, probably from within the last 4-ish years. Panelists will be watching these samples to get a better idea of what to expect from your project. So we encourage you to include a clip that connects to the proposed project and shows them something that they can learn about the work from this video. So again, some of the more nitty-gritty details of submitting these. For the preliminary application, which is the one you're working on right now, we don't require that the videos be downloadable. So you can include a YouTube video or whatever link that you can send to us so that we can watch it. That being said, for the final application, it will need to be downloadable. So if you want to, it might be simpler just to have a downloadable version now and send that in, so you can use Vimeo or Google Drive or anything like that. But if you want to just use YouTube for the inquiry round, that is totally fine. So you'll give us the link to the website for the video. And if it's password protected, just please, please, please be sure to give us the password so that we can share that. You should keep in mind that the panelists will be reviewing these on their own time, on their own devices. If you have access to files with subtitles, we really recommend that. If not, it's totally fine, but keep in mind that if there's any audio that's hard to understand or whatever, the advisors might miss some of that information. So just be mindful of that. And then on a similar note, because the advisors will be watching this on their own time, it's really, really important that if you send us a link, you leave that video online until at least until the mid-May panel meeting, because the advisors will be going back to these videos and watching them up until that point. And if the video is not there anymore, they're not going to be able to see your work.
So here we are, looking all cute. This is the theater team. So Derek, Ida, and myself. And we really want to emphasize the importance of communication and ask that you stay in touch with us during your process. We welcome you to send an email or call us if you have any questions that come up. We actually do respond. We also have office hours coming up next week and the following week. We just, I think, uploaded on our website where you can sign up for that. And I can send that link over along with the recording of this webinar so that you have it handy. They're all 30-minute time slots that you can sign up for to talk to one of us about specific questions that you may have about your application. Let's move to the next slide. Yeah, so I think we're at the end of our webinar part. So we are opening up to questions. So you can go ahead and unmute yourselves and ask the question, or you can type it in the chat box if you would prefer that. Yes, I see a question. Can the nonprofit applicant be the development partner too? Do you mean the nonprofit fiscal sponsor, or you mean the artist ensemble applicant? The fiscal sponsor, yes. Oftentimes, a development partner, they may offer as one of the ways that they assist the development to provide fiscal sponsorship. Let's see, Mellon is a prolific funder in the theater space right now. Will being a grantee for another of their programs affect the application's viability? No. Simple answer. Can you talk about the designated tour coordinator and their connection to the application at this point? At this point in the inquiry round, we don't really require you to have a designated tour coordinator. Just know that you will need somebody once you do receive our grant. In the final application, there'll be a slot where you can write their names, but it's not really a part of our decision making, whether you have identified the tour coordinator at that point or not. And in terms of some ensembles where, as Derek said, if they don't really have the infrastructure for having somebody, most of the time an ensemble member will be the tour coordinator. And so hopefully the $10,000 that you get additionally on top of the grant will go towards assisting their work.
And we have a question, if we receive a grant for the same project, will we be disqualified? So you are totally welcome to get other funding from outside of NEFA, NTP. The only exception would be the National Dance Project. So if you're applying for the same project for NEFA's National Theater Project and NEFA's National Dance Project, you would not be able to be funded for both of those. You can apply for both though. If you receive the National Dance Project, they announce their grantees before we do, so you would have to make a choice then. But as far as granting outside of NEFA, there's no problem there.
Next question is, I'm having trouble with what is considered a new developing piece. If the work has been performed before, can it be considered? Yes. We are pretty flexible about the term premiere because we understand there's so many ways that folks can have premieres. It could be like a city premiere, state premieres, world premiere. So it's more about if you do have more development that needs to be done to that project, that you describe that in the application as in detail as possible, so that the advisors and panelists understand that you still have a lot of development to be done. And it doesn't matter if you have already done a work in progress showing of some sort or performed it before. Eric, you want to take the next one?
Yep. So the next question is, could the development partner be an educational institute which would not be involved in the finished project, but would provide space for rehearsal and connection and community, et cetera? And the answer is absolutely. Many of our projects use development partners that are not presenters or even arts organizations. Anyone who's helping you put this project together could be a development partner. In the application, what you'll want to do is just talk about why this development partner is helping you make this work and why they are valuable. But we do not require that that be connected to the final product, whatever it is. An educational institute is perfect.
I see that there was a question that we missed, which is, what is the earliest start date for project activities if funded? Do you mean touring activities or development activities? If you could expand on that, Colleen, that would be great. And then meanwhile, how expansive is your definition of theater? What about multidisciplinary works, particularly those that span digital and analog presentation platforms? Yeah, I think we're pretty expansive about the definition of theater. The best way to see that is through looking at what projects we have supported so far, which is all available on our website, our NEFA website, and you can go to the grant directory and sort it by National Theater Project, And you can see the array of projects that we supported, which range from, what is that, animation, there's like a specific name for that. The Torrey Pines. Derek, what is it called? Something animation.
I just thought animation. I don't know.
It's like an animation film with live Foley and also live music. And we've also supported an opera with collaboration with children's chorus. We've supported work like Complex Movements, which is the Beware of the Dandelions, which was highly technical, incorporated a lot of multimedia. So I think it's worth looking through what we have supported, but we are pretty expansive about our definition of theater. And I see that Colleen responded to development activities. So we support, so the funds that you receive have to be used towards development after the grant date. So that will be mid-August is usually when we let the grantees know. Doesn't mean that the development cannot have started before that, because a lot of our applicants have started developing something years in advance. But the fund specifically that we grant you for development has to be for development work that is from August 2020 and beyond. Derek, you want to do the next question?
Sure. So could a development partner be another artist? Like if we're a theater ensemble interested in collaborating with a particular musician? I think this one's a little bit harder to answer. I think it would be a little bit case specific. I would say generally no. I think that if you're working with a particular musician, that would be usually considered just part of your artistic team. But there are unique circumstances, and if that's something you're thinking about and wondering about, I would recommend getting in touch with us and talking about your specific situation. And I guess it might be a good time to just take a minute to go back to the questions we've already answered. I know we're kind of just going from one to the next, and when you're typing, it's sometimes hard to say if you didn't really understand an answer. So to those of you who have asked questions or just have been listening to these, did all of these answers pretty much cover what you were asking? Is there any lingering doubt about anything you've already asked? Or new questions?
Let's see.
So there's a question, is the touring only nationally or international touring would also be considered? So our grant can only cover performances within the United States. That being said, the project can tour outside of the United States. We just wouldn't, you wouldn't be able to use your touring funds for those performances.
Yeah, and then I see, can you have more than one development partner? Yes. In the preliminary application, I think you have to identify the primary development partner, and then there's an area where you can add 2 more development partners in your application. For the final application, I think we have more space. We might actually not have any limits. So yes, you can have multiple development partners.
And there's a question, if the artist is part of an ensemble that has recently received the NTP grant and now he is the lead artist of another ensemble, would he be eligible to apply? And as long as he wasn't the lead artist, or they weren't the lead artist with both projects, they would be. There's lots of overlap between our projects. Many people have been in many ensembles, and that is totally okay as long as they aren't the lead artist for that ensemble, or for both ensembles, I should say.
And then we have, I'd love to just hear more about development partnerships, maybe examples of partnerships that aren't theaters. Sure. So one of them that I can think of right now is Sandglass Theater, who received a grant from us for a work called Babylon, which was working with Syrian refugees. and their development partner was a refugee, what is the name of the association? It was an organization that worked with refugee families to assist them with relocating here and assisting them through their new lives. And Sandglass was able to have a really deep relationship with this development partner by having them introduce them to families, Syrian families that they can interview with. And it was done in a really thoughtful way so that it's not re-triggering or re-traumatizing for the family. So it was a really careful process to develop these relationships. So those are deep development partner relationships that are with non-theater or arts organizations. I don't know if that's helpful. Somebody asked, can you define iterative? That's a hard question because it kind of depends on how you look at that word. I mean, iteration is the repetition of a process, right? So I think it's part of many of the ensembles that develop work, device ensemble projects where they go through repetition of different ways to express their work, different work in progress showings, and then kind of developing work from there. There's many ways that you can define that, and it's really, we leave it up to you to define that for us. Let's see, could we consider a potential development partner who at present is working with one of the last round of NEFA touring creation grantees, or they should not be eligible? No, you can work with a development partner who is working with touring and creation grantee. We don't really restrict that. Even within this round, there could be multiple people, organizations that are working with 3 or 4 applicants that are applying for this year. We don't restrict that.
They don't actually get any money.
And just to iterate, the development partner themselves do not get money from us. The money is given directly to the artist. The development partner is just there to work with the artist. You may choose to give money to the development partner, but that's not, the money isn't going directly from us to the development partner.
There's no formal contract between us and them. So.
And there's no formal contract between us and them.
The little voice you hear is Kristen Gregory, who's
National
Dance
Kristen
Project.
from the National Dance Project is whispering in my shoulder all the things that I should have said.
The whisper.
Hello. Trying to remain anonymous.
Anything else? And if, oh, here we go, we have one. Can the project and NEFA cover expenses include community engagement and installation? Yes, the creation funds can absolutely cover community engagement and installations. The touring also could. If it's worked into your artist fee in some way, then the money that goes to the presenter, because we're covering 50% of the artist fee, if that's included in that, it could also be included there.
And in terms of, you know, your expenses around development and also contracts that you have with presenters, we don't really, we ask in the final report for you to submit a budget, but it's really not for us to judge how you use that. So it's really up to you. We just ask for that final budget just for our granting purposes as well, since we are re-granters, for our funders to see. And also in terms of the contract that you have with your presenters, we don't take a look at that at all. That's really up to how you negotiate with your presenters. So we don't really, put ourselves in that process. In the budget planning, how detailed we need to be to show how much will go to the community engagement towards creation and how much to the participating artists. So in the preliminary application, we don't have a budget section at all. We took that out, so that is not required in that stage. In the final application, there will be a section to put your full budget for development, and you can just follow the fields that we offer and kind of fit in whatever you have in terms of expenses, as long, hopefully it will match what you have with the form that we offer. And we do have a budget description section that you can elaborate on further if you want to talk further about it. So it's really how much ever detail that you want to offer us. Typically more details, more transparency, the better, so that the panelists and advisors have the full scope of what you're trying to do. But obviously we have character restrictions and such. So within what we offer, as much detail as possible will be great.
If additional questions come up, you're of course always encouraged to email those to us. We really hope that we'll be able to talk to some of you in office hours. That's a really good place where we can talk specifically about your projects, questions that, going through some of the things that you're thinking about, some of the questions you have for your project specifically. And if the office hours that we have listed on NEPA's website don't fit your schedule, that's completely okay. Let us know. We will find another time to talk with you. Those are just kind of a starting place.
Okay. Okay, great. I think we are at the end of our webinar. As Derek said, reach out to us if you have more questions. We will send out the link to this recording as well as the link to the office hours as well. So thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us this morning/afternoon, wherever you are, and hope to hear from you soon.
Thank you.